Brought to you by Shure South Africa, the leaders in audio innovation. Whether you're a musician, podcaster, or simply a lover of crystal clear sound, Shure has got you covered.
From premium headphones to professional microphones, Shure South Africa ensures every note, every word is heard with unparalleled clarity.
So turn up the volume and turn on the excitement with Shure South Africa, proud sponsors of 919 FM. Visit Planet World's Rockstar Studios or your nearest music retailer today.
Shure South Africa 919 FM, where great sound meets great entertainment. Shure South Africa, shaping your sound experience. Available now at leading retailers.
We all love a good story. Stories of love and life. Stories that entertain and inspire. And the best stories are the ones that happen to be true. Every Friday night, Jack Devnarain is live in conversation with an iconic South African personality who shares the true stories that shape their remarkable lives. Join us for reality radio as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night, only on 919.
Hey everyone, happy Friday. You're listening to 919. My name is Jack Devnarain and this is Reality Radio. It's as real as it gets every Friday night when we have a guest live in studio to talk about the incredible stories that shape their remarkable lives. And tonight, my very good friend, a performer, an iconic South African, an award-winning actress, star of the small screen, the big screen and musical theatre, Ilse Klink.
Hi, Jack. How's it going? I'm
I
happy
can't
to be
believe
here.
you're here in studio with me after all this time.
Yeah.
One of my favorite memories is because, I came in, I joined Isidingo in 2002, right?
Yes.
You were already there. You were there up until about 2007 or so.
No. It was only 2004.
Until 2004?
Yes.
Oh, no. I was all eyes and ears. I was just soaking it up because this was such a big deal for me to be in the space at the highest level of the production world in South Africa with South Africa's most loved performers. And I remember watching while I was in the hair and makeup department, I was watching you and Zayn Mears do the most incredibly harrowing, emotional, draining scene. And once you had cut the scene, you were then walking back to your dressing room where all the actors had their dressing rooms in a line back at the SABC buildings. And I saw you walking back with Zayd, talking and laughing and carrying on. And I was thinking, oh, what? How did you do that? Like, I would have invested everything. I would have left my soul on the floor of that studio. And I realized, I've got a lot to learn.
Yeah, because that's exactly where we leave our souls, on the floor, and we leave it there, and you know what I mean? The truth stays in front of the camera, and, all of that emotion is left behind there.
Yeah.
And then you've got to move on to the next scene.
To
you
the
know
next
what I mean?
harrowing scene.
So you never know what it's going to be. Maybe it's a comedy, maybe the next scene is going to be something light, so you've got to prepare yourself for that. You can't carry those heavy emotions around with you, I think. Yeah.
No, I think that, and that's one of the survival things that we have to develop when we're in the world of film, TV, particularly soapy.
Yeah.
Because there's so many heavy scenes that come at you at such a rate.
Yes.
You've got to try and manage it and survive it. Hey.
Yes, you have to. I mean, you've got to prepare yourself. I mean, especially when there's a very emotional scene.
Yeah.
You've got to have some sort of, preparation for it. For the day, because sometimes when you're doing a heavy storyline, you can do up to 8-10 scenes per day. So those are different scenes with different energies, some of them similar, but some of them extremely, extremely different. So you've got to pace yourself as well as a performer.
That's one of the things.
You have to pace yourself.
One of the things I wanted to ask you is, in soapy, and of course, every actor has a process, right? The process of getting into your character as neatly and elegantly as possible without taking up unnecessary energy or wasting everybody's time. So you develop certain shortcuts, right? Just to get into character so that you nail your scenes and you can walk away and get ready for your next scene. So typically, at the time that you and I were in the soapy world, 10 scenes would be a crazy heavy day.
Yeah.
Now, you've got people shooting on telenovelas that are up to 15, 17 scenes a day.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right, so that's what I wanted to check in with you, because I thought, am I going mad here?
No, that's absolutely madness. To make that kind of demand from an actor is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I remember shooting on a soap. I had 11 scenes 3 days in a row. So I did 33 scenes in 3 days.
Yeah.
And by the end of, I can do about 7 scenes a day. I know my personal capacity now at the age of 50-something.
Yeah.
You know what your personal capacity
52.
is. Yes, that's right. Are you also 52?
No, the reason I know this is because I'm 53 and I wanted to say, I told you I'm older than you.
Absolutely. So, I mean, when you're younger, you don't even think about it. So our younger people who are very enthusiastic, maybe it's their first job or it's the beginning of their career, they want to pay their dues. They don't mind shooting 10, 15 scenes a day. They're good. They can go for it. I know at this age, I cannot. Even when I was younger, even in my 30s, after 7, I started to become mud. Everything becomes, kind of blends into each other. One scene blends into the next, and then you forget where we are because we don't shoot chronologically.
Of course.
That's the other thing.
Yes.
You're shooting scene 50 from episode 58, then you're shooting from 60, and then you're shooting 61 and 62 for that week. So you're not shooting in chronological order. So you've got to have your wits about you. So that's when we leave it. So when we're doing a scene, we give everything because I don't know how to give less than 100%. Honestly, you know, it's just impossible for me not to give 100% every time.
Yeah.
Because you know what your 100% looks like. So you do it and you throw everything into it and you let it go. But so I think that when you're doing 15 scenes and you have to manage all of those emotions throughout the day for 3 days, that's absolute madness.
Yeah.
In fact, I would use the word abuse.
Yeah. Interesting you'd make that reference, because when we look at, and let me apologize now 20 years later, I was one of those guys who walked in and I was so grateful for the work. I would do anything. And I used you as a reference point because I remember us having one of those idle conversations between scenes as actors do. And your approach to the contract, your approach to the job, your approach to the production and the producers, to me was so sobering, because I thought we just permanently supposed to have this ridiculous, idiotic grin of gratitude.
Gratitude.
Yes. And I realized, no, that's not how it should be, because your approach was far more clinical, unemotional, and about the business.
Yes. Because it is a business.
Right.
We are selling ourselves as a product. We are selling our professionalism, our integrity. We're selling all of those things that make you a professional for the price of a monthly salary or whatever it is. You know, we are selling a product. They are buying the product from us. And we need to, and our agents need to see to it that we don't get abused.
Yeah.
So I put it in my contract now.
Really?
I put it in my contract. I do a maximum of 8 scenes.
Oh, wonderful.
I've decided to, that's what I can
You
do.
cap it.
Yes. Otherwise, I'm an emotional mess.
Yeah.
After the first day of doing the 11 scenes, I was okay. Second day, I was starting to crack.
Yeah.
The third day, I was broken.
Yeah.
You know, because also if you look at, because soaps are such a production line,
Yeah.
it's a factory.
Yeah.
It's a factory. We're making a product that needs to go out. We're shooting 3 months in advance. The product's got to go out Monday to Friday from this time to that time. You don't have time to mess around. You don't have time to get sick or not be available or those things that you know we sometimes see. You know, there's no time for that. So you got to do everything as quickly as possibly, as professionally, as timeously, all of those things. That's part of the package.
Yeah, and you've got to be efficient with your own time and energy, right?
Yes.
Which is why we often develop certain tricks and tips. We're going to talk about that because it's the world of surviving soapy.
Yeah.
And then the rules change when you go into film and you start going to musical theatre as you do. That's something I'd like to pick up. But first, we're going to take a quick break and come back to the discussion with Ilse Klink.
They say nothing ever lasts. But what about the Fast and Furious franchise? Or showing Anaconda 2 for Friday Action Night? Or how Brooke is still forgiving Ridge Forrester like 50 seasons in? And then there's Burger King's Whopper Meal deal, which is still going strong. So get your hands on 2 flame-grilled Whoppers topped with the freshest ingredients, plus 2 portions of crispy golden fries and 2 bottomless drinks for only 130 Rand. Only at Burger King, where good things do last.
We all love a good story. Stories of love and life. Stories that entertain and inspire. And the best stories are the ones that happen to be true. Every Friday night, Jack Devnarain is live in conversation with an iconic South African personality who shares the true stories that shape their remarkable lives. Join us for reality radio as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night. Only on 919.
And we're back live on Reality Radio. This is Jack Devnarain on 919, and you're listening to our little discussion with Ilse Klink. Ilse, I remember we were just talking earlier about how young people coming into the industry prepared to do anything because you're given your big shot, right? And yes, I was there. I'm not sure if that was ever a reality for you. I think you were far more grounded. But doesn't it also creates another expectation for the industry when you have this cohort of new performers who just come out of they're the recent graduates and they're prepared to do the work, and then you have broadcasters and producers who are saying, oh, here they are, our new group of people, they're going to be taking a 50% cut and they don't even know it. And so year on year budgets get less and less because people do it for less and less.
It's absolutely easy to, it's the carrot, that's being held out. Come on. And they want to. And there's nothing wrong with that enthusiasm. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong to want to really work hard and make your mark and put yourself on the map. Because that's what we want, right?
Yeah.
We want to be able to put ourselves in a position where we can have choices. Because people know kind of what we've done. We have built up a reputation. Now we have choice. So we all want to get there really quickly. So that's part of it. And they don't even know what the average salary is. I don't know. You didn't know.
No.
Nobody knows what the average
and no one's going to tell you.
Entry-level salary is in any job, I don't think. In any job. Nobody knows what the entry.
Well,
so they
not
just
in our industry. Not
Absolutely.
in our industry,
Not in our industry.
Yeah.
We don't know how low can you go? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's why, like SAGA, the South African Guild of Actors, you guys are trying to get that minimum wage onto some, you know what I mean?
And there are huge developments with that I have to share at some point, but that's going to be a whole different interview. But very, very, very good news on that, I have
that's
to say.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so I imagined you always being that kind of person. Coming into the industry a lot more industry aware than the youngsters I'm seeing now. I went into the talk at WITS 3 weeks ago. This was their final year performance group. And the only way I could describe it to them, I said, have any of you watched the movie called The Matrix? And of course there were lots of nodding heads. And I said, good, you're coming into the industry. This is your Red Pill moment.
Oh my goodness.
It started off like that, and it was all downhill from there, because then they saw what they were getting themselves into. And it is the truth of the industry that it is my duty, knowing what I know now, to be able to say to them.
Absolutely. You have to.
I have to.
As people who have been in the industry for a while, you've got to share that knowledge. There's no point holding on to things you already know. These young people, I always, on a set, I will always find a teachable moment.
I love that.
I have to, because you're sitting with all of this knowledge. What are you going to do with it? You already have it. You've got to share it with the young people. You've got to got to chat to them.
I was
find
in one
out
of those,
where they're at in their heads also, and go, you know, actually, maybe you must re-look at that. Maybe next time in your next contract, you should speak to your agent and find out maybe you could ask for a little more. You know, see write down what makes you unhappy on the set. I'm not saying being ridiculous now. I only want to do the good stuff, because it's hard work. It is a craft. It is not just a job that anybody can do, which is the perception these days.
That's right.
It is a craft. You've got to work at it, and things that really affect you also with the knowledge that you have or the training that you've had. If something feels off, have a discussion about it. Have a discussion about it with somebody who's been in the industry for a while. Don't be afraid, man. I also say, listen here, I'm not more senior than you. We are all doing the same job. We are all making the same contribution.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that somebody's busy fixing a light up there. That person's making a contribution.
Yeah.
So his is as equal as yours. You're not a star here. We're all doing the same job. We're trying to make a product. We all want the best for it. So I am no better than you.
That is the best description that I've heard. And I have to say, I was in one of those teachable moments where you were holding court and sitting us down and giving us a lecture. I remember it very well. But I'm going to tackle that later, because it was actually very good practical life advice. But I want to go back to the time when you were at university. Now, you were born in Cape Town.
That's right, yeah.
How did you find yourself studying performance in Pretoria?
So when I was 15, my dad had been working in Cape Town, and the company that he worked for, he got laid off. So he was unemployed for a while. And the only job he could find at the time, it was a very hard time. It was 1985, so it was the time of the riots, in Cape Town. There was a lot of, you know what I mean? There was a lot of a fight for freedom, which was really exciting on the one hand. But on the other hand, I think that economically, when I think back now, it became a very treacherous time for people who were investing in South Africa, who had investments. They were like, are we pulling out? So anyway, he lost his job at the time, and the only work he could find was up in Garankuwa, which is the old Bophuthatswana. So he found work then the closest place to there, because we couldn't move into, I don't know why there was just not an option that we would move into Bophuthatswana, but we would move to the closest, which was Pretoria, closest to the factory where he worked. And so we moved into this neighborhood called Eersteris. Everybody spoke Afrikaans. My mom speaks Afrikaans. She's from the Platteland in the Cape. Heidelberg, the Southern Cape. And so we've always had Afrikaans on our ears. She would speak Afrikaans to us. We'd reply in English. My dad would speak English to her.
So it was part of your home?
Yes, it was part of the home language. But now, as a child, you think, oh, well, I can speak Afrikaans. Come on. Come on. So easy. So you go and study tertiary level Afrikaans. And that was a bit of... that blew my mind. But also, what happened was I applied to study at UCT, and I didn't get in there. I don't think my parents would have been able to afford it in any case. I ended up at the University of Pretoria, and I was doing my tertiary education in Afrikaans, which was the ultimate challenge. However, to this day, I mean, I don't believe that anything happens by coincidence. I think there's a very real energy that's happening for you to walk a certain path. And I do most of my work in Afrikaans now. And I do not regret that experience. It was hard, but when something is hard, you've got to rise to the challenge. Hey? And I think that is, where theatre, and also I sound better in Afrikaans. Strangely enough.
Really?
There's something
How do you
about
work
the
that out?
resonance in Afrikaans that makes me sound... that makes my voice better. I don't know. That's beside the point.
No. That is exactly the point, because the question was, did the language embrace you as much as you embraced it?
It did.
Yeah, that's amazing to be able to say that.
It absolutely did.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it was a university, so they would tell you, okay, your articulation was a certain, it had to be a particular way. In those days, it was 1992, guys. It was before 94 where you were accepted for who you are.
Yeah.
So you had to conform to the manner in which they spoke Afrikaans at university level, because they didn't know how to now handle this woman of color now in our space? What do we do with her? Honestly, I thought the lecturers were thinking, like, what do we do with this girl now?
So
how do we handle it? We've got to
right?
make her. They didn't know what to do with me. It was as hard for them, I think, as it was for me. So for many years, and I can still do it. I can do a baie Afrikaanse accent. Ek kan so praat as ek moet. Jy weet, in sulke circles, dan praat ek so. Because it is part of my code switching.
Yes.
Because that's also what we do as actors.
That's
do you know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
We code switch so to that Afrikaans accent when this is needed here, and then I'm with this bunch of and you do it, and it comes naturally, which some people will say it's really like, yeah, that's not authentic. But you know what? It's such a big part of who I am that it is my authentic now.
I love that. So it's faultless and it's seamless. And somebody listening to you speaking Afrikaans in a character where you are from the Cape Flats wouldn't be able to distinguish Ilse from this character. I
mean, I think you would. Do you know what I mean? And I think the Cape Town Afrikaans accent is very, if I am called upon to speak in a particular accent, which is like the Cape Afrikaans, depending also on the level of wherever the character sits, is it somebody who's affluent? Is it somebody who's from the Cape Flats? You know what I mean? I think there are many, many performers in Cape Town who can do that very successfully. Okay. So I don't try and put myself in that category if I don't need to, but if I need to, I'll go there. Absolutely. I can do accents. I'm an actor. That's what we do. We change our accents, we change the way we look, we change what do we do?
I didn't go for the accents course, Matavadava.
Nobody had an accents course. We just did it as we went along, you know what I mean?
I realize that. But are you a tough judge on yourself?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I saw that yesterday. I did something called Texmark, which is for the Klein Karoo National Festival. And so that's the one that is held in Oudtshoorn every year. And yesterday, so what we did was there are writers who have written these scripts, and they need actors and directors to put this play on its feet. So you have a script in hand and you read the dialogue, but you perform it. It's a performance with dialogue in hand. And we literally had 3 days worth of rehearsal because you're reading it.
Yeah.
So you do a lot of rehearsal by yourself, but with the director, it's about three rehearsals. I was terrified.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm under-rehearsed. I don't really have an in-depth analysis of this character because it's a short period of time. They give you a week. I had a week to put it all together.
Yeah.
And of course, that is part of being an actor. And I say this to young people all the time. I was speaking to a younger actor about 2 weeks ago, and she says, why do I feel insecure? I said, please just make peace with that. Because that is what being an actor is. You will always have imposter syndrome. You will always feel like you are never good enough and your work is never good enough. I had to watch the video, the live stream of the thing yesterday to prove to myself that I was good enough.
Oh, that's a tough judge.
I had to actually do that.
You are so hard on yourself. You should be a guy. I promise you, life becomes so much easier. I can tell you exactly how much easier, but we're going to take a break and come back.
Sure.
It's Ilse Klink on 919 Reality Radio on a Friday night.
We all love a good story. Stories of love and life. Stories that entertain and inspire. And the best stories are the ones that happen to be true. Every Friday night, Jack Devnarain is live in conversation with an iconic South African personality who shares the true stories that shape their remarkable lives. Join us for Reality Radio, as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night, only on 919.
And we're back talking to Ilse Klink, and what a tough judge she is on herself. But the amazing thing is that you have so many skills and talents. I love the fact that you sing and that you were in a rock band. That's amazing. What happened with this rock band?
Well, I was in that rock band for 11 years.
Oh, really?
Shortly after I turned 21.
Yeah. Isn't that a good time to be in a rock band?
Oh, absolutely. You're good looking. You think that you're all that, and you need to be there to be the front singer, right?
Of course.
And it was such fun. We used to rehearse twice a week. It was actually initially it was just for one performance because Chris Becker, one of my lifelong friends, I would call him, he was looking for a lead singer for this band. He was going to do a gig at the place he worked at, at Telkom.
Oh.
He was doing the end of year gig and he was looking for performers. Like he had most of the band and he was just looking for a singer. And there I was. I was 21, hey?
Yeah.
I had just given birth to my daughter.
Oh, wonderful.
She was 10 days old and I was so desperate for work. I was like, I didn't know what this was. I was like, I need to work. I need to do something because now I just finished my 3rd year at university.
Yeah.
And I found out I was pregnant. I was at home for 6 months. I had a baby. 10 days later, I'm sitting here doing an audition. I mean, it sounds surreal, but this really happened. 10 days later, I'm doing an audition for a rock band. Sorry. Sure, that's a loud laugh. And Chris says, no, cool, you're in. So we're doing this gig. I can't remember how much I got paid for this gig. And he said, we're just going to keep the band going. And I was like, yes.
Okay.
Like
you can do that.
I mean, come on. We were a rock band in Pretoria. We did original songs because that was also like unheard of. But Pretoria is still very much like the rock band, space.
Yeah.
There was a lot of rock bands going around at that time and we were just in it. And what was beautiful is that the band wrote these amazing songs. Chris wrote a lot of the songs. We had a lot of fights. The band, we've had I think we had 4 drummers over the time period I was there, 1 or 2 guitar players, but it was always wonderful. It was my therapy on a Tuesday and a Thursday.
Oh, really?
Until I got work at the PACOFS, which was the Performing Arts Council of the Orange Free State. And then I had to leave the band. And then 2 years later, I came back and the band was on again. And it was wonderful. It's my favorite genre to sing, rock. It's my favorite genre to sing. And we made incredible music. We made 3 albums. The name of the band was called Extra Dik. Extra Dik. It was wonderful.
Perfect.
And we sang mostly in Afrikaans.
Perfect.
And it was just amazing how the language had taken over my life so
at that point,
so completely.
Because now you come into university, you're studying tertiary level Afrikaans, and the next thing you know, you're graduating as the first black graduate from the performance school.
Yes, from the drama department of Pretoria, the University of Pretoria. I didn't know it at the time. I just knew that there was nobody else of color around me. In the first, second, or third years, it was the honor students and I don't know if they were master students at the time. There was just nobody. It was just me.
Yeah.
And then I realized, and there was nobody was coming in. When I left, nobody had come in for a while, I think. And I mean, it wasn't celebrated, it wasn't mentioned, it wasn't. But years later, I actually realized that I was the first black graduate from the drama department.
It's funny how that becomes important, though. Hey?
Yeah, absolutely. Because there were only a handful of black students on campus in any way.
On the whole campus.
So we all kind of, rallied together. We all took the train together.
Yeah.
Some of them were staying on campus, but there was kind of we saw each other on campus.
Yeah.
We're like, hi guys, how's it? It's just like this energy of like, my people, I can rest now. But as strange as it is, it was a life lesson for everybody that was there at the time.
And when the 5 of you used to get together at the campus cafeteria, do they call like the security police for an illegal gathering? Were you politicized at that point?
But was I Absolutely not. I was the most unpoliticized person
No.
in the world. I was quite. When I look back at it and I look at the group of friends I ended up with, highly politicized. I mean, one of my friends was like the ANC student SRC for ANC SRC for the Western Cape.
Wow.
One of my best friends at the time, and I was like, I think I was dwelling in because I'm somebody who I live in a world of fantasy. Not as much now. I used to live in a world of fantasy, and I think that's where I have a rich imagination, and I did then. And so I was in the world, but I wasn't part of the things that were happening. I wasn't politicized at all. And I'm not ashamed to say that, because I really, you know, people get offended. How could you not have been? How could you not have been? And fighting for what I was living.
There's nothing like motherhood, I think, to focus somebody's attention on the practical realities of life.
Absolutely.
So, did mommyhood make you more of a dreamer, or did it really wake you up to reality?
Look, it grounded me very, very quickly. Because I also knew, but this was the inspiration now to work really hard, because now I had this baby, and my mom said, and 6 months later I got a job at Performing Arts Council. I had auditioned in my third year for them, because the Arts Councils they used to in the old days.
Okay.
They used to come and watch your final exam.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of showing your wares. This is what I can do.
A showcase kind of thing,
yes,
right?
and I was a little bit in demand. I did also get a job in Durban at the Loft Company, and I had to phone Murray McGibbon.
Yes.
And say, listen, guy, I for personal reasons, I didn't tell him what was going on.
Yeah.
I said, for personal reasons, I'm afraid I cannot accept the contract that I've been offered.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't happy, as you can imagine.
But I remember the Loft was a happening place as well.
Yes.
It was amazing that you were part of that, though, because
I was going to be part of that, and then I was pregnant, and I had my baby, and then you know, Gerben Kamper, who was the head of the artistic director at the Performing Arts Council of the Arendsvlei State, he phoned me at the end of that year of 1993, and he said, listen, Ilse, I'm not sure what's happening with you, but I'd like to offer you a position. And I was like, I said, thank you so much. I'll let you know tomorrow. And I went to my mom and I said, Mommy, you won't believe what happened. I just got a job at Packoff's. And she was like, that's amazing. I said, yeah, but I can't take it. I mean, what about the baby? She said, you are going to take that job.
Yes.
She said, I'll look after the baby. I said, no, Mommy, this is my child. Yeah. I'm taking that child with me.
Really?
She was 6 months old.
Oh, amazing.
So I was a single mom there trying to make a career. So that's been my whole life.
Yeah.
You know, that it really puts you in work here, and you're going, I'm going for it now. I'm working hard. I'm doing whatever I can. And I used to say to her, yes, I was performing in the day and the night. Yeah. I had somebody that looked after her, a wonderful woman called Selena. She took care of, I gave half of my salary to Selena, because she was doing all the work.
Yeah.
I was performing, half of my salary went to her every month. Then I would cry at home and say, my daughter doesn't have milk, Mommy, please can you send me 100 Rand for milk?
Yes.
Or her dad, you know what I mean? I was crying on the phone every month. We were earning so little. But I grew up quickly. And it was the foundation, and, you know, I don't regret anything. There's nothing that I regret.
Yeah.
Nothing. As hard as it was, those were the years that I grew up really quickly, and I became an independent person, and you got life experience within an instant, you know what I mean? And it was just amazing.
Don't you wish you could, I look at my kids, I'm sure in the same way you look at yours, and you wish you could short circuit the pain for them and say, listen, if you just listen to me, I will give you all these lessons. You can learn it for free. Don't make these mistakes. This is what you do, and this is the timing of it. Just follow my advice and you won't go wrong.
Yes.
You wish you could tell them that.
I try. Even now I'm learning that you cannot, it's not up to you. My son said to me the other day, Mom, your problem is that you can't accept that I'm growing up, and you need to let me go. I was like, I'm not ready. I don't want to let you go. I'm going to tell you what to do. This is now. So, and it's crazy because his journey is his own. It's got nothing to do with me. I can only guide, but whatever he does is his thing. And that's so hard to accept. It's
I
hard.
suppose, like you say, the mistakes you make, you don't regret for a second because they were learning opportunities.
Absolutely.
And this is exactly what these kids are going to do, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when my parents found out that I was pregnant at 21, I never heard the words disappointment.
Yeah.
I've never heard the words, how could you? I never heard, they're such loving parents and such, I would have lost my mind if my 21-year-old had come to me. My parents were like, okay, so what we need to do now is let's have a meeting with, Daniel, my daughter's father. Let's sit down and talk about this and decide how we're going to do this.
That's incredible.
I was gobsmacked even then, even now.
Yeah.
Even now, I'm amazed at how my parents handled it. I was never made to feel like I wasn't good enough, or I had made such a huge mistake that I will never pick myself up. So I spent a lot of years trying to prove myself to God knows whom, because I didn't need to prove myself to my parents.
No.
It was absolutely unconditional.
What do they feel? What is their reaction when you said you wanted to study drama?
Oh, there was there was a reaction.
I'm thinking they got over their shock. At the time, they had to let you study drama, and by the time you come back and say, Mom, I'm pregnant, they would have thought, well, that was just going to happen.
So my dad was always very enthusiastic about it, about from the time we were young. He always used to say, you can do whatever you want, whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe it can achieve. I
love that.
There's no such word as no. Think positively. All of those things were drilled into us. I think we were saying, instead of saying children's prayers, we were saying whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe it can achieve. No such thing as I can't.
I love those secular affirmations.
No, you can. So also I didn't know what I wanted to study. It was never like who does acting. Also, like it's not necessarily something that is part of your world, because there weren't any actors in our family. We were the firsts. There weren't any singers. There weren't any of those careers were not a reality for us.
And if I took it a step further, I'd say to you, it wasn't part of our reality as people of color.
Correct.
Because if you had to watch TV then, as we did, there were no such stories then.
No.
And the what little we had of people who were being depicted as, black, Indian, colored, were always presented as the nanny, the gardener, the cheap used car salesman, and that sort of
there was no storyline for you. You were always support.
Yeah.
There was no storyline for you. You were just filling a practical role.
So I agree, it was never a possibility.
Yeah, so you never even thought about that. So of course, for a parent to adjust to that mindset, that something that not even I thought was possible for myself could now to ask your parents to entertain that thought, or a parent to entertain that thought is like a real stretch for them.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I had that discussion with my mom, and she was like, you want to study what? Wow. She said, you've got to have something to fall back on. And it was a challenge for her to accept. And eventually, when they saw that, no, she can do it. She's
trust her, let her go.
Just trust. And that's what we need to do with our kids, I guess, hey?
I suppose that's the lesson. So we are, but there's so much more to go into that world, talking about parents and kids and, what we see for ourselves as performers in years to come. But I'm saving that now for the next part of our discussion. We're going to take a quick break. Because this is a Friday night and it is reality radio and it is Ilse Klink, and we're having a quick break and we'll be back after this.
Looking to make a difference? Join us at Little Eden Society and become part of changing lives. Your support can provide lifelong care to 300 children and adults living with profound intellectual disability. Whether it's through volunteering, donating, or spreading the word, every action counts. For more information, visit littleeden.org.za. or call us on 011 609 7246. Creating a brighter future for those in need, together.
We all love a good story. Stories of love and life. Stories that entertain and inspire. And the best stories are the ones that happen to be true. Every Friday night, Jack Devnarain is live in conversation with an iconic South African personality who shares the true stories that shape their remarkable lives. Join us for reality radio as real as it gets. From 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every Friday night. Only on 919.
Reality radio on a Friday night with me, Jack Devnarain. In studio, Ilse Klink. And the joy of creating characters. So we were talking earlier about methods that actors use, and some people can really take their time to discover this other being within them, and it takes a whole process, and some of it really gets in the way, and some of it is just absolute junk. Where are you in creating a character? Where do you start when you create your characters?
Well, I mean, I always start with the script as your basis, you know what I mean? So I would look at what I first go to the emotional side, because that's an easy place for me to latch on.
Okay, yeah.
Latch onto. What is the character feeling throughout the scene, throughout this journey, whatever the storyline is to start off with. I first start with, how can I connect emotionally? And once I've connected emotionally, then I go, okay, who is this person? Do you know what I mean? You go to the next stage of it. So for me, always the first one is the emotional attachment.
I love it.
And yeah.
So here's a challenge.
Yes.
How about the kind of role where you are portraying someone who is deliberately emotionless? For example, the judge that you played in the Ellen Paki story.
Yes.
So that was like, how do you then create something like that? Because you have an attachment to the story.
Yes.
And yet you have to play this character. You got to commit to this character.
Yes.
That is fully immersed in the horror of what took place. And you have to make a judge, you have to make the judge as balanced as possible and emotionless.
Absolutely.
Objective.
Absolutely. So it's got nothing to do with what the character is feeling at the moment.
Oh.
It's got to do with how I connect, how Ilse connects with what the judge is saying.
Yeah.
So when these words are being said, it's a judge. She has to be neutral. However, in this particular part of the role, I was giving the judgment. I was listening to the evidence and I was giving judgment.
Yeah.
So that was the big, the big emotional part of it. So you read everything, and once you connect, once you find that moment where Ilse connects with this woman, and because the judgment was fair, the judge spoke about how she saw Ellen Pakkies as a victim of the system that failed her. The very thing that this judge is supposed to uphold, or the law, the police, the very thing as a policeman you should uphold, we failed this woman. Yeah. So in that moment, for that particular character as the judge, I found that emotional connection where it's like, we failed this woman. And then I have something to hold on to.
Yeah.
Now we start building on the character.
Oh, okay.
So that's our connector.
That.
How Ilse connects with the emotion of this particular character, because she's not neutral. Everybody's feeling something all the time.
Yeah.
When I say these words to you, Jack, I am feeling something right now, so I have to go to that place. And that's my first point of connection.
And a successful communication is when you get me to resonate at the level that where your emotional message comes from.
Absolutely. Because isn't that what we're doing here as performers as well? I have to move you.
Yeah.
In some way. Whether you're going to get angry at the character, whether you're going to have empathy with the character, or whether you're going to absolutely hate this character, or just feel everything that I'm feeling.
I love that challenge though, as performers. And for me, the challenge is always the story needs for this person to be seen as the villain.
Yeah.
And for some reason, and I got my agent in studio as well, she can attest to this. Ever since I grew my beard in 2015, I'm only getting villain roles.
Yes.
Yeah. How crazy is that? So as a personal challenge, I decided to play my villains in a way that gets the audience to think that, well, maybe he's not the villain.
Exactly. This is something I learned recently. I also played a villain.
Yeah, that's the first.
And no. I play a lot of villains.
Okay.
But on this particular project, it was for Saint Worcester, which was the soap on CakeNet, and I kept getting direction to say, don't go to that emotional place yet. Don't. And we don't know who she is.
Oh yes.
So completely neutral. So the audience goes, now what? So we leave the audience wanting more because they don't know who this person is. What is she doing here? And for the first time in my 30-year career, I go, woo, a light bulb went on.
Yeah.
Play neutral up until the point where those layers or that, you know, where she starts taking off the coat of disguise.
Yeah.
And then she becomes the evil.
Yes.
And then you really see who she is and what her agenda is at that point. So you can't go in guns blazing from the start.
Yeah.
So that I learned the other day, and that was so
showing your cards
lekker.
too early. What I enjoy about the villain thing that I discovered, and I find it so delicious when I am able to do this, is even at the point that the layers of disguise come off, at that point, what I'm playing is I'm doing this for your own good.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
So this is not about me.
Yes. Yes.
This is about me helping you.
Yes.
So it is so self-justifying.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, that no matter what I do,
Yes.
it's because I'm in service of a greater good, a greater reality.
Absolutely. And also, the villain doesn't hate himself.
No, the villain never judges himself.
You can never, that's the other thing, you can never judge your character.
Yeah.
Whether your character's a murderer. I mean, to be able to play those delicious roles like, Dharma.
Yes.
He can't judge himself.
Hannibal
Lecter. Hannibal Lecter. All of those, they're not judging themselves.
Not at all.
They're just being who they are. So you can never judge your character, because then you start, instead of giving truth to character, you're now playing what you think the audience will want.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
Yeah, no, that's a travesty. That's a waste.
That's a waste of a character.
And you and I were talking earlier about like the Ellen Paki story, for example, is based in reality. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to reflect on those stories and to recreate them. And I remember also back in 2010 doing a movie about a massive cash heist that took place in Durban when I was still in the police.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so this, years later, I'm telling the story in a movie form, remembering what actually took place back in 2000. No, yeah, 2000 and oh no, it was 1996 when the heist happened.
Yeah.
So this was years later in 2010, coming back to tell that story, and truth is often stranger than fiction.
Absolutely.
Hey, no matter what you and I can come up with, we can set our imaginations free in a wonderful brainstorm session, come up with the most outlandish plot, and that's still nowhere close to what
reality.
Actually happens in reality.
Absolutely. I mean, it's crazy, hey? Stranger than fiction. I think that, I mean, we were talking about how one lives in this, how I live in this fantasy world where it's such a rich place that we come from, because we get to play the villain. The other day I was playing human trafficker.
Oh,
you know,
nice
people
one.
get really angry at me for that. Not at me, at the character. I've never been a human trafficker. I have no desire to be a human trafficker. But
are you sure?
The mind of a human trafficker, and it's not funny, but you know, you've got to allow that imagination to take over. What is this person's world like?
Yeah.
To be able to think that would be something that would be okay.
Yeah.
It's just something that I got used to. Look, I mean, she was a victim of human trafficking herself, this particular character.
Okay.
So the reason she did it was because she needed to survive.
Yeah.
So she, and if she had left that world, they would have killed her because she knew too much.
Do you know that's happening a lot in our industry, though?
What?
In our industry.
What?
Human trafficking.
Really?
Yeah. It's happening because, I mean, we are an unregulated industry, right? So nobody knows if this person who says, I'm an agent and I'm having an audition, there is no way of verifying that this person is who they say they are.
That is correct.
So,
I've seen some of those,
and it's happening a lot in KZN.
That's correct,
It's crept up to Gauteng, which is a lot more regulated in terms of, how industry manages itself. But it's a huge area of concern for us. And just as a helpful resource for you, now that you've done this whole human trafficking story, look for A21.
Okay.
They are the organization, global organization, and they have very strong roots in South Africa. A wonderful, accessible, resourceful bunch of people who specialize in dealing with issues of human trafficking. However you find it, wherever you find it, they have a contact number, and I'll give it to you, after the interview. But it's certainly something that you can use. You are going to come across it in this industry.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Terrifying.
tragic. That is truly terrifying. And it's a reality that we live with every day. I mean, I actually personally know somebody who's not whose daughter, but who knew somebody whose daughter was trafficked in a small little town. The kid walked from her house, from her friend's house, literally down the road to the corner, and she never made it home.
No, sure.
And I am not a very religious person. I'm spiritual. I'm not religious, but I got on my knees and I really prayed.
Really?
And it occupied my mind and disturbed me so terribly. Thankfully, they found this child with other children. One of the girls that were kidnapped actually had a phone on her, and they hadn't realized that she had a phone, and she sent a message to her mom. They ended up within 24 hours from, I think it was in not Benoni or Boksburg or something, that area, to within 24 hours those girls were found in a house in Bloemfontein.
No. That's terrifying.
I cannot imagine that kind of experience. I mean, that's a terrible thing to occupy one's mind with, but it's a reality. I tell my son to wear shoes that he can run with.
That's great practical advice,
I tell him, I said, you're going out in those slops.
Yeah.
You need to put on practical shoes so that you need to run if you need to. To tell your child that.
Put laces on your Crocs.
To tell your child that is absolutely terrifying. I mean, it's unreal, but it's part of the reality we live with.
So, does the prospect of directing terrify you?
Absolutely, and it should. But I do. It is a world that I would love to start exploring, especially in theatre. I've started doing little things because I've also tried to put myself in a position where, I don't know. I mean, like I say, I'm a spiritual person. I send energy out into the universe. And I said I would like to direct something. So I've been getting small little things. We'd started with children. Now I've moved to teenagers. And I've dabbled there a little bit and learn a lot and speak to a lot of people. And then I would like to eventually direct a play that's sitting in my mind and has been there since 2008.
Is it in Afrikaans?
It is an Afrikaans piece, yeah.
Okay. Can't wait.
Yes, I'm excited
Ilse
for it.
Klink, this is the most amazing conversation. Thank you so much for being my friend. Thank you for being on this show. Thank you for sharing all those memories and the wonderful experiences that you've had. You got it right.
Yes,
you got it right. We want to see this play come to life and make sure that the team from Reality Radio is going to attend the first staging.
Yes.
And thank you for the energy that you put out to the universe. It's appreciated and you are so loved.
Thank you so much, Jack. It was an absolute pleasure to be here. What a lekker conversation.
It's heading into the weekend now. So it's Reality Radio. Everybody join us again next Friday for more on 919.